In this video, which is Modifying Scaffolding 2, we're going to look at how to modify some action links in our little comment-generated scaffolding. In the previous video, Modifying Scaffolding 1, we went in and changed these lines to look a little bit nicer and gave them alternate coloring. I've actually added a few things from that previous video. I added the additional rows for the created at and for the critic last name. And you'll notice that to get that last name of the critic, showing up right here, I actually followed the relationship through critic to last name. And Ruby makes it very easy to follow that, because it's just simply method calls. So we get comment, we got critic, and then finally through critic we get last name. And I get this because I set up that model correctly for a one-to-many relationship. So now in my scaffolding, you notice that I did have an actions CSS property set up. So I'd like to go ahead and change my code to include that. You'll notice that each action has its own table here, and perhaps I don't want that. I want to put all these actions on one line. I can control the formatting a little bit better that way. So let's clean this up a little bit. And by the way, I have in my editor my tabbing set to soft tabs, which means that it actually replaces the tabs that I'm doing with spaces, because Ruby doesn't like the tabs too well. It's better to use spaces. So you could space over, or if you're using a good editor that you can set up, you can tell the tabbing to be soft. So now I've moved all these elements into one single cell. Let's go look at what difference that made here. It just eliminated the lines in between here, so that cleaned it up a little bit. But I still want to apply that style, so I'm going to call this class equal, and then my class name was comment actions. And if we look at the CSS for that, comment actions, it actually makes the font size pretty small, it right aligns it, and then sets up the padding for the left a little bit, put some padding onto the left side there. So let's go ahead and reload this now. And now you can see the links are much smaller, and they're much more professional looking, I guess. They're a little bit cleaner there. There's probably designers out there that probably do a much better job of setting that up. So we've essentially added and changed our generated scaffolding quite a bit by adding our own setup for these column names. We've gone ahead and created our links. So this really isn't the scaffolding code anymore as much as our code, and you saw how quickly I modified that scaffolding to make it my code. And that's what scaffolding is about.